Hello again, watch friends. Welcome back. A while back, I did a video on some of my favorite watch-related websites. Those are the websites that I go to quite often, use repeatedly, and find that they're very informative and interesting. I have so many websites that I go to that I really couldn't fit them all in one video. So that's why I'm doing this part 2 video of some of my favorite websites. And in the first video, I categorized the websites into two main groups: the big ones, the biggies, and secondly, what I call occasional gems, things that you run across unexpectedly and find that they're useful or interesting or whatever. In this video, I have two categories of websites, watch-related websites. The first is what I call reference, and the second is what I call commerce sites, sites where you can buy and or sell your watches. So let's get started. Let's get started with the reference websites, as I call them, and here are some of my favorites. So let's start with the National Association of Watch and Clock Collectors. Regardless of the name of the organization, national, it actually is an international organization, and they're a group of people that are into, obviously, watches and clocks. They have a number of benefits and features. They provide local events as well as a annual convention. They have publications. It does require membership. They even have a museum in Pennsylvania, in Columbia, Pennsylvania, and the museum looks rather interesting. I haven't been to it yet, but it's on my to-do list. So check out the National Watch and Clock Collectors. Again, the website's in the description below. Another organization is kind of similar, but not quite. This is the American Watchmakers and Clockmakers Institute. And this organization has some interesting aspects to it. For one thing, it's useful if you wanted to find a watchmaker, a quality watchmaker. They have a link here to find a professional watchmaker. And if you click on that link, you can enter your address or just zip code if you want. So, for example, I'm going to put in my zip code, which is that, and I'm going to say find me a watchmaker within 50 miles of my home. And sure enough, in this case, it found 43 results of watchmakers. It provides the name, address, phone number. And what's especially interesting is some of the watchmakers are certified. They're certified in a number of different categories. So as part of the AWCI. So there's CW, CW1, CW21, and if you're not sure what those are, you can look at those. Okay, so here is the certification. One is CC21, Certified Clockmaker of the 21st Century, and CMC21, Certified Master Clockmaker. What's interesting, and I won't go into it now, but on this website it also shows what the qualifications are for those certification categories. There are tests that must be taken and passed. So the American Watchmakers, Clockmakers Institute is a good reference if you're trying to find a qualified watchmaker. No mention of favorite websites would be complete without the Grand Prix de Horlogerie de Genève, the Grand Prix, the annual Grand Prix of watches. These are basically high-end watches. As you probably know, every year a bunch of industry experts and watchmakers get together and all vote on the best watches of the year in various categories. So, for example, if I were to look at Winning Watches 2017, you can see that there are various categories here. For example, let's just choose the Petit Aiguille prize. This is the annual prize for watches that are, I believe, under about $8,000, but they don't have to even be that expensive. For example, my Hobring 2 Felix won the Petit Aiguille 2 years in a row, and that lists for about $5,000. Anyway, if you click on the watch, it gives you some information about the watch that won the prize. This happens to be the new Tudor Black Bay Chrono. You can see what the movement is, the case size, all the vital statistics. They even provide a video. They give more detail about every aspect of the watch. The video, if we jump to the video, let me just go back and click on the video. The video obviously is, and of course now this is sort of a meta video because I'm making a video of watching a video. Anyway, the videos are produced by the watch brands themselves, so they're going to be extremely high quality, and I think in your area of watch porn. But they're fun to watch, and sometimes you learn something. All right, so that's enough of that. But I think you learn more from the actual details about each watch. So that's the GPHG, the Grand Prix de Horlogerie de Genève. Not easy to say, especially 3 times. Another interesting website, which is extremely valuable, I think, because I am a Seiko watch collector, is the Seiko and Citizen Watch Forum, otherwise known as the SCWF. The SCWF has amazing amounts of information, amazing amounts of detail. I'm going into the forum right now, and you can dive as deep as you'd like. Here's, for example, the Seiko Divers reference, and here, just like any other forum, there are various topics that people post, their replies to the topics. There's all kinds of information. In many cases, there are things you wouldn't find anywhere else. Of course, that was a bad choice. Here's another example of the Seiko Turtle 6309. Questions about it, and often you'll find this useful. So, and again, it's Seiko and Citizen, and it's just a very, very extensive forum dealing with those 2 brands. Next on the list is one of my favorite websites. This is watch-wiki, and boy, can you find out a lot of information here that's almost not available anywhere else. So, for example, let's say I wanted to look up and learn about movements. I want to do some research on movements. Let me check, for example, manual winding movements. I'm just choosing these offhand. We know that ETA makes a number of them. One of the popular one is the 2801. So here is the ETA 2801-2 manual movement. This website provides information on the movement, It describes the movement, functions, data, how it's used. Very, very complete information. Again, things you would not easily find anywhere else. Again, going back to movements, for example, let's say I want to look at movements by manufacturers. Let's say I want to look at Jaeger-LeCoultre, and I know that in my master control sector dial, it's an JLC 899 movement, and here's a description of that movement. Again, it gives everything from how many components, the frequency it runs at, what watches it's used in, and sure enough, here's the master control, among others, when it was made, all the details, all the specs about the particular movement. Here are examples of the actual watches, and you can see that this is not the sector dial. This is the master control original, which also has the same movement. So very, very good reference. There's not just movement information. For example, watch knowledge. If you want to look at, check out watch lexicon and look at terms, watch-wiki probably has one of the best, if not the best, thorough and complete examples of watch terms. So I'm just picking fusée here, and it gives a description of what it is. It will often have a picture, and there it is. It's like a little miniature chain. Really cool. So watch-wiki, again, is probably one of my favorite sites. Check it out. There is so much information here. I can barely even scratch the surface. Another interesting website is the Time Zone Watch School, and this is kind of cool. This is you can take a course in watchmaking at different levels. So, for example, let's look at there are different courses. Let me find different levels. Oops, got the wrong thing here. That was the FAQ. Here we go. Course catalog. So it costs about $300. They actually give you a movement, and you put things together. Here's the level 1 class. It talks about terminology, and so you understand all about it. You disassemble, you reassemble. Level 2 steps it up a bit, and it's based upon the knowledge that you've gained in level 1. Level 3 goes even further, and level 4 is the highest level course they have. Now, taking one of these Time Zone Watch School courses is not going to make you a watchmaker, so don't think it is, but it's going to give you a full appreciation of what goes into the making of a watch. In fact, I think after the new year, I'm going to take the level 1 course and see how I do. I've always said that I'm a lot better with a hammer and pliers than I am with tweezers and a jeweler's screwdriver. So we'll see how I do. But check it out. It's the Time Zone Watch School. Again, link in the description below. Here's another interesting website. This is Lepsy. And Lepsy is an interesting outfit. What they do is they sell a product similar to a time grapher. Let's look at their, if I go back to there we go, the watch scope. They have several products, but one of them is called watch scope. And as you can see, the watch scope is it uses an Apple app for the iPhone, an iOS app. It costs about $370, and it's a high-tech microphone. that goes on the back of the watch, so it can listen to the movement. And then using the app, it gives you health information about the watch. What's interesting about this site is if we go to, I want to go to user guide. If we go to the user guide, again, this is for the watch scope. They talk about aspects of how you measure the health and quality of a watch. So they talk about the actual daily rate. Is a watch running fast or slow? It talks about the frequency of a watch, various frequencies and what it means. They talk about things like amplitude, how strong the watch is running, and beat error. Is it running symmetrically as it moves back and forth? Anyway, so this is a real interesting site. Even without buying their product, you can learn a lot from looking at their site. The last site, of course, I have to mention. I could not mention it, and that is the Urban Gentry. I think many of you are familiar with the Urban Gentry. This is a site, long been a YouTube channel, and of course on Facebook, and we all pretty much know TGV. And here you can find all of TGV's videos going back for the last 3 or 4 years. I think he's been around about 4 years now. And hundreds of videos, as well as feature articles. One thing that was rather extremely interesting was his trip to Switzerland earlier this year, and his trip to Jaeger-LeCoultre. Just amazing. So anyway, that's the Urban Gentry. He now has his own site, and cleverly it's called theurbangentry.com. So check it out. So that wraps up the reference watch sites. Let me now move on to what I call the commerce websites. Okay, as far as commerce sites go, places where you can buy and sell watches, probably the mother of all commerce sites is Chrono24. Chrono24 is just an amazing site. There are so many watches here from all over the world at all different prices, at all different grades. You can find just about anything you want on Chrono24. I've actually bought a couple watches here. I've sold a couple watches here. It's just really amazing. So, for example, let's just type in, I'm thinking, I don't know, Tudor Black Bay Blue. Okay, so let's say Tudor Black Bay Blue. It found 42 watches that are for sale that meet the search criterion of Tudor Black Bay Blue. Now, these watches can be sold by individuals. They can be sold by websites, web-only retailers, or they can be sold by brick-and-mortar stores. I bought one watch from a jewelry store somewhere in New England. I forget where. In fact, it was a Tudor Black Bay Blue. Matter of fact, I bought a watch from an individual, and of course, I've sold watches as an individual. So, whatever you type in, whatever you're looking for, you have a number of choices. If you go into and you'll see different prices. You go into one of the selections. Sometimes the seller will let you suggest a price, so you can dicker a little bit with the seller if you don't like the price that's being posted. Sometimes shipping's included. Sometimes there's an extra cost for shipping. A lot of the quality watches, well, they come from the U.S. anyway, but you'll see a lot from Europe, and it gets rather expensive shipping from Europe. It can be 40 or 50 or $60 to ship a package. For some reason, it's cheaper to ship a package from Europe to the U.S. than from U.S. to Europe, but that's another story. Anyway, you can see all the details. For example, this particular watch, this Black Bay in steel with the bracelet. If we scroll down, we can see that it is condition 0, which means that it's unworn. The conditions go from 0 to 3, I believe. Sometimes they come in box and paper, sometimes without. All the specs are here, and any relevant information. So Chrono 24 is really probably the best place to find almost anything that you're looking for at fairly good prices, because the people who sell watches on Chrono 24, they know what the watches are worth, so they're not going to overcharge. You may not find any great bargains, but if you can, if the individual watch that's being sold, if the seller lets you suggest a price, you might be able to negotiate a good price. So that's Chrono 24. Another watch site, this one I've actually bought a watch from. I bought my 1940s Stoa from this site. This is Watch to Wind. It's vintage watches, and there's always something different. You never know what's going to be here. I just clicked on watches to see what he has for sale today. I believe this guy is in Spain, but the actual business is in Germany. All the watches come serviced by his watchmaker, and some of these are just drop dead gorgeous. I haven't looked at this for a few weeks, so let's see. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this JLC 1950 JLC memo box. What a gorgeous watch that is. 2,200 euros. So I think the euro is about 10 or 15% more than the dollar right now. So add another 200, 300. So this is going to be about $2,500 US. But he describes the watch in detail, everything you want to know about the watch. He always has great pictures and a lot of pictures. So, for example, before I buy a vintage watch, and I actually did a video on buying a vintage watch, I like to see the movement. So let's look at the movement here. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I don't know what else to say besides wow. So this is Watch to Wind, a great place to buy vintage watches, and actually, you know, you can get into a really nice vintage watch for not too much money. I mean, for the price of a quality Seiko in the mid to high hundreds, you can get some really, really nice stuff. Anyway, so this is Watch to Wind. Another site that sells vintage timepieces is a site called Farfo. And Farfo is a guy that actually is in northern New Jersey, I understand. I've never bought a watch from him, but I know somebody who has bought several watches from him and has met him in person. So let's see some of the things that is on the Farfo, farfo.com, F-A-R-F-O. He sort of specializes in chronographs. And the person I know that has bought several watches is also a chronograph a vintage chronograph kind of guy. So Bill, this is a shout out to you. Anyway, look at some of these. Look at this. Again, I haven't looked at this page in quite a while. What strikes my fancy? He's got a lot of watches here. Just check out this Gruen. This is a Gruen chrono timer. Let's see if I get a nicer picture of that. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Boy, I can imagine wearing this thing. This is... looking at this site's not good for my bank account, that's for sure. Anyway, he gives all the information here, provides information on the case, the dial, the movement, everything that you could possibly want is here. And boy, what a nice watch. Anyway, so this is farfo.com, and even if you're not in the market to buy a vintage watch, and you just want to look at watches, you want to look at beautiful watches. Look at this. This is for $900. Look at this. Look at this watch. This is a multi-calendar rotating dial, triple date. Wow. They don't make, well, they do. I was going to say they don't make watches like they used to. They do make watches like they used to. It's just that they don't make as many watches like they used to. I guess that's a better way of saying it. Anyway, this is farfo.com. I could spend hours on this site drooling over watches, which I won't right now. One of my other favorite sites is Hub City Vintage. Hub City Vintage is a site by a guy named Seth Roberts. Seth Roberts specializes in Seiko vintage watches, and he calls himself a watchsmith. He's not a watchmaker because he doesn't make watches and build watches. His specialty is finding Seiko watches and tearing them down, building them back up, cleaning them, lubricating them, fixing them, whatever it takes, and then sells them. And there's always something different on his website. Actually, I have bought quite a few watches from Hub City Vintage, and in fact, what we're looking at right here, this 1966 Seiko Sportsmatic military, I'm actually wearing right now as I do this video. And also this Seiko, this Grand Seiko, I also bought a couple weeks ago. Beautiful watch. So Hub City Vintage is the place to go if you want a quality vintage Seiko watch. Only caveat is when he puts up his watches, and he puts up anywhere from a half a dozen to 10 watches every few weeks, they pretty much sell out almost instantly. Within minutes, the watches are gone. So I highly actually, he's also fixed several of my watches. So I bought watches from him. He's fixed my watches. I highly respect him. And pretty much now, I won't buy a vintage Seiko watch from anybody else, only from him. So this is Hub City Vintage. Great site for getting vintage Seiko. Another commerce site that is sort of a general purpose is Esslinger.com. And this site, they sell watch parts, tools, supplies. So let's say you wanted to buy, for whatever reason, you wanted to buy a watch movement. Let's say you wanted to buy a 2824. Let's see if I can do this quickly. So, in fact, better yet, I can do it at a 2824. 24. Let's see. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. 2824. And I should be able to find the actual movement. There, you know what? There's so many things here. 28, 24, movement. And you know what? One more time. And I shouldn't type so fast. They sell course movements. They sell mechanical movements. Let's see. Going to what mechanical watch movements, and you can see that there are just loads and loads of options available. These happen to be Myotas. There's some Chinese movements. So movements are just one thing. So you can also get watch tools. Let's say you wanted to, or crystal. Let's say you wanted to get a crystal. Well, you can, if you know what the actual size of the crystal or the brand of watch that the crystal is needed for, you can find it here. So again, tools, parts, everything related to watchmaking. It's esslinger.com. And then the last three commerce sites I want to mention deal with something you may be familiar with. A lot of times Seiko for sure, and sometimes Citizen, and other Japanese makers. They only sell watches to the Japan market. They're called JDM, Japanese Domestic Market, and you can't find them in the U.S. However, there are three sites that are very easily accessible. I've dealt with all three, have bought JDM watches from all three, and those sites are, the first one is called ChinoWatch.com, actually c-watch.co Japan. Again, link in the description below. So Chino. Another one is called Seiya Japan, SEIYA Japan.com, and a third one is called Shopping in Japan. All three of these sell Japanese domestic market watches, primarily Seiko, but also other watches as well. You'll find them here. So if you're looking for a certain watch that you can't find, check out any of these three Japanese domestic market watch retailers. So that wraps up the commerce sites. I know it's been a long video. Sorry about that, but there's just so much information out there, both reference sites and commerce sites, and I wanted to give you a feel for what I thought were the best, or at least my favorites. I'm sure you have your own favorites. Feel free to comment below on what I suggested, what I've shown, mention some of your favorites, and that about wraps it up. So thanks for watching, as usual, and I will see you next time.